In the small, quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, a sinister presence had taken root. For generations, the townsfolk had whispered stories of a malevolent force that lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. But it wasn't until the arrival of Father Thomas, a renowned exorcist, that the true nature of the evil was revealed. Father Thomas had been summoned to Willowbrook by a desperate plea from the town's priest, Father Michael. Strange occurrences had plagued the town for months, and Father Michael had been unable to explain or contain them. He feared that the devil himself had descended upon Willowbrook. As Father Thomas stepped off the train and into the eerie silence of the town, he could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on him. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and the sky was perpetually overcast, as if the heavens themselves wept for Willowbrook. Father Thomas made his way to the small, weathered church that sat at the center of town. Its windows were shattered, and its doors creaked ominously in the wind. Inside, he found Father Michael kneeling before the altar, his face etched with fear and exhaustion. "Father Michael," Father Thomas said, placing a reassuring hand on his fellow priest's shoulder. "Tell me everything." Father Michael recounted the tales of terror that had plagued Willowbrook. Unexplained deaths, animals behaving strangely, and whispers of voices that seemed to come from nowhere. The townsfolk lived in constant fear, and many had already abandoned their homes. With a heavy heart, Father Thomas realized that he was dealing with a force unlike any he had encountered before. This was no mere possession or haunting, this was pure malevolence, a manifestation of evil itself. That night, Father Thomas conducted a preliminary exorcism in the church, hoping to drive out the evil that had taken hold. As he recited the sacred verses, the very walls of the church seemed to shake, and a deep, guttural voice emanated from the darkness. "Leave this place, priest," it hissed. "You cannot save them." Undeterred, Father Thomas pressed on, his faith unwavering. He could feel the presence growing more furious, lashing out with unseen forces. Books flew off shelves, candles extinguished themselves, and the temperature plummeted. For days, Father Thomas battled the malevolent force, his strength waning with each passing hour. It whispered vile temptations in his ear, trying to break his resolve, but he clung to his faith and pressed on. Finally, on the seventh night, as Father Thomas recited the final, triumphant words of the exorcism, a blinding light burst forth from the church, illuminating the entire town. With a deafening scream, the evil presence was banished, leaving behind only a feeling of profound emptiness. As the first rays of dawn broke over Willowbrook, Father Thomas stepped outside, exhausted but victorious. The townsfolk slowly returned to their homes, and the town began to heal. The malevolent force had been vanquished, but the memory of those terrifying days would forever haunt the hearts of Willowbrook's residents. Father Thomas left Willowbrook, carrying with him the knowledge that evil could manifest in the most unexpected of places. He knew that his battle was far from over, but he would face each new challenge with the unwavering faith that had saved the town of Willowbrook from the darkest depths of despair. Years passed, and Father Thomas continued his work as an exorcist, traveling from one dark corner of the world to another, battling the forces of evil that sought to corrupt and destroy. But the memory of Willowbrook never left him, and he often found himself wondering if the malevolent force he had faced there was truly gone. Then, one fateful night, as he lay in his bed in a small, dimly lit room in a distant town, he heard it, the same guttural voice that had haunted him in Willowbrook. It whispered his name, cold and menacing, and he knew that the battle was far from over. Father Thomas knew that he could not run from this evil, that he had to face it head-on once again. And so, With the weight of countless souls on his shoulders, he prepared himself for a new battle, knowing that the forces of darkness would never stop their relentless pursuit of his soul. As he journeyed back to Willowbrook, he couldn't help but wonder what had awakened the malevolent force once more. What darkness had taken root in this seemingly peaceful town, and what horrors awaited him there. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but Father Thomas had faced evil before, and he was determined to confront it again, no matter the cost. Upon his return to Willowbrook, he found that the town had fallen even deeper into despair. The once thriving community had become a ghost town, its streets empty and its buildings decaying. Father Thomas knew that he had to act quickly to save the few remaining souls who had not yet been consumed by the malevolent force. He sought out Father Michael, who had aged considerably since their last encounter. Father Michael's eyes were haunted, and his hands trembled as he recounted the horrors that had unfolded in Willowbrook in the years since Father Thomas's departure. The malevolent force had returned with a vengeance, possessing the bodies of the townsfolk and using them as its instruments of terror. It had twisted their minds, driving them to commit unspeakable acts of violence and depravity. The once pious residents of Willowbrook had become vessels of pure evil. Father Thomas knew that he had to perform a more potent exorcism, one that would not only banish the malevolent force, but also free the souls of the innocent townsfolk who had been ensnared by its darkness. He and Father Michael worked tirelessly to prepare for the ritual, gathering the necessary materials and strengthening their faith. As the night of the exorcism approached, a palpable sense of dread settled over Willowbrook. The malevolent force, aware of Father Thomas's return, seemed to grow more powerful with each passing day. It taunted him, whispering in his dreams and trying to weaken his resolve. The night of the exorcism arrived, and Father Thomas and Father Michael entered the dilapidated church, their hearts heavy with the weight of their mission. The malevolent force wasted no time in manifesting itself, filling the church with an icy, malevolent presence. As the exorcism began, the malevolent force fought back with all its might. The very foundations of the church shook, and a chorus of tormented voices filled the air. Father Thomas and Father Michael clung to their faith, their voices unwavering as they recited the sacred verses. The battle raged on for hours, with the malevolent force growing increasingly desperate. It hurled objects at the priests, causing them to dodge falling debris. It unleashed nightmarish illusions, trying to break their concentration. But Father Thomas and Father Michael stood firm, their faith unshaken. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to break through the church's shattered windows, the malevolent force let out a deafening scream of agony. With a blinding flash of light, it was cast out of the town, leaving behind a profound stillness that was broken only by the sounds of Father Thomas and Father Michael's exhausted but triumphant voices. Willowbrook began to slowly recover once again, its remaining residents freed from the grip of evil. The town's church, though in ruins, stood as a symbol of hope and resilience. Father Thomas knew that his battle with the malevolent force was far from over, but he had once again triumphed in the face of unspeakable evil. As he left Willowbrook for the second time, he couldn't help but reflect on the enduring nature of darkness and the unyielding power of faith. He knew that he would continue to face evil in all its forms, but he would do so with the unwavering belief that goodness and light would always prevail, no matter how deep the shadows may fall.